Right, John Gaunt's going to be dishing it out. See who's in line for what he's got to say after Charlotte with a rundown of what else is happening.
Thanks, Eamon. An official government report is calling for tough new restrictions on the legal alcohol limit. A report for the Transport Secretary will suggest cutting the existing legal level.
Let's go through the papers now. We've got John Gaunt here this morning with his views on these. And John, it's a story in The Sun, first of all. The headline's Hell for Heroes. I'm just picking one email here. Leah Johnson, and she says this was disgusting yesterday in Barking in Essex, and this is a Muslim protest against the returning troops.
Well, it's true to say it's extremist Muslims, of course. Jez, echoes what happened in Luton, Eamon, about a year or so ago. Hell for Heroes, say The Sun. It's in every single newspaper today. These soldiers returning home, parade through Barking. Of course, these people who are against the war have a perfect right to demonstrate. I believe in free speech. I believe in freedom of expression. What they don't have a right, just like the far right don't have a right, is to incite racial hatred. And this is clearly inciting racial hatred. The police should be intervening. Things like, you know, baby killers and Muslims against crusaders, and it's just absolute garbage. Now, as I say, they have an absolute right to protest. They do not have a right to incite hatred or incite violence, and I think these demonstrations, they are trying to do both of those things. The police should be investigating and they should be lifted off the streets. And it's just an absolute insult to these lads. And also, of course, tied in with, you know, the Bloody Sunday inquiry and everything else, you know, our soldiers certainly are in the news for the wrong reasons this morning. And we must remember we lost 3 more lads only yesterday as well. You know, that most British soldiers are loyal, hard-working, committed and trying to do a damn good job. And these people who are inciting this should be clamped down on, and clamped down on heavily.
Well, someone else who incites a lot of reaction is the BNP leader, Nick Griffin. This is from the Daily Express. Yeah. He's been invited to the Palace. Could you explain to people why that is? Yeah, well, this is interesting, isn't it? He's an MEP. I don't hold with him at all, don't like any of his views at all. However, he was going to go to the Palace Garden Party last year with the guy who's on the London Assembly, a BNP member. He wasn't allowed to. There's a big protest about it. Her Majesty the Queen has invited him now because he's an MEP. She's right to invite him. He is democratically elected, whether you like him or not. He has a right to go to this party like everybody else. And what happens by trying to ban him, just like the particular way they put him on Question Time and tried to turn it against him, you only give him sympathy. Ignore him and hopefully he'll crawl back under the stone from whence he came. But he is democratically elected, unlike these Muslim extremist morons who are inciting trouble. Now, an hour ago, you were talking about the mum lap dancer and teaching her 7-year-old to lap dance. Here now in the Daily Mail, this is a story you could not make up. No. Let's see this one. Yeah, off you go, John. Sorry.
Yeah, traffic PC demanded sex to turn a blind eye. He'd been in the police for 8 years in Wales. His name is Jamie Slater. Basically, he was stopping women who were speeding or committing traffic offences, and then he'd text them later, get their number, text them and say, look, I'll let you off with that offence if you have sex with me. Now, look at him. He is not exactly a matinee idol. Let me tell you, 2 women agreed to have sex with him and had sex with him. He's now been booted out of the police. He's been sent to prison for 6.5 years. It's an absolute disgrace.
Well, Charlotte, I mean, we were just talking about this. How desperate would you have to be?
Or to have sex with him?
No, I'm saying to be in that position.
For someone to actually say, do you know what, I'm faced with a speeding ticket, or, you know, saying yes to this man. It's just horrific.
It is horrific, but it's also, it's an abuse of power, isn't it? And some people they might be on 9 points. They might need their car for work. They might need it for the school run or whatever. I mean, simply, you know, he's abused his position, hasn't he? But I said that woman was ugly before. I've got to balance it, haven't I?
Yeah, Slater also had sex with 2 prostitutes in his police car.
Oh, not only that, he had one of them in the back of the car. He had a woman in the back of his car, and he had to go off on an emergency call, so he told her to hide on the back seat. You'd have thought somebody would have found out earlier, wouldn't you, really? But there we are.
Gosh. Maybe the uniform has more of an attraction than we all think. We now go to Robbie Earle, who's a former Wimbledon footballer. He's the ITV pundit, and he's got himself in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, ITV are having a bit of a nightmare when it comes to the World Cup at the moment, I feel. But, you know, with the problems with HD, you know, suddenly showing a TV advert when Stephen Gerrard was scoring, bit of a mistake for them. Now Robbie Earle has had 150 tickets. Evidently, you can, if you're a pundit or if you're working at the World Cup, there's a special way you can buy tickets for family and friends. But so you'd have thought somebody would have asked the question when he bought 150 tickets.
He's got a lot of family and friends.
He's got a lot of family and he's got a lot of friends. And that's all the papers make out today. All these blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls, I don't really see how they can be the family.
Well, they were better than your average supporter. I suddenly thought, I'm going to support Holland from here on in.
Do you know what? We were joking about this on the radio because we were saying, how soon would it be before the cameras start zooming in on the good-looking girls? Because that's what they always do.
Yes,
at these big
the Brazilians.
Tournaments. Yeah. Yes. But here, they had the pick of a bevy of beauties. But all of these beauties were then kicked out of the stadium.
Because they were advertising something.
Well, yeah, but this is what's interesting, you see. FIFA have got this thing. As long as you pay your money, you can advertise, you can be in the stadium.
Yes.
If you dare to ambush it, like this PR company's doing...
An unofficial, you're not an official sponsor or whatever.
It's all a bit odd. It's a bad taste all round. But, I mean, Robbie's now going to be watching it rather than commentating on it.
So do you agree with the back page headline in the Mirror, stick it up your Kaiser?
Not necessarily, but I do think it's a good headline, even though it's in the Mirror. And it's echoes of Piers Morgan, isn't it? Do you remember the last World Cup? Actung Jerry, for you, the World Cup is over.
Yes.
Caused a lot of trouble. People said it was racist. He's now going on to earn £12 million a year, or whatever it is, on CNN. Didn't seem to hurt his career, did it? Also printing pictures of squaddies committing atrocities that weren't true. He's done all right for himself. So maybe whoever's put this in as well is going to do well. But I tell you what, it wouldn't be a World Cup and it wouldn't be a football tournament if the Germans weren't giving us a bit and we weren't giving the Germans a bit. That's what it's all about. Hopefully it's just friendly rivalry. There's nothing more than that. It's a funny headline. Stick it up your Kaiser. Because basically, yeah, Franz Beckenbauer has said we're playing kick and run sort of football, which is hard to kind of disagree with, isn't it? Really?
So, Charlotte, come Friday night, will you be round the telly for the England game?
I certainly will be, yeah. Yeah, I'll be there with my vuvuzela, of course.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Have you blown one yet, John?
No, I haven't, actually.
There you are. Feel free.
Can I have a go?
Yes.
I won't be able to make it, but who's blown it before?
It's virginal.
It doesn't look like it. It looks like everyone's chewed it. Look at it.
Honestly, it's just a natural.
There we are.
A natural.
I think they're fabulous.
Yeah, it's supposed to resemble a big bull elephant, and I think there's no arguing with that.
Oh.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. John Gaunt
Thank
with
you very much.
the newspapers. Top stories of these. President Obama. Well, I've got 3 targets in my sights right now. And pulling the trigger, first of all, on Jacqueline with the sport.
Can I say something about
Please.
that film?
It's never stopped you before. Go ahead.
It's going to be really hard for him to get away from being the ginger one from Harry Potter,
So what you're saying is, no matter what a fine actor he is, you only see him as Ron Weasley.
Yeah.
Charlotte, would you concur?
Yeah, I think that's true, actually. It is. You expect him to be doing all the same kind of things, don't you?
Well, when you see Daniel Craig, do you just see James Bond?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so shallow. Lucy?
I think it'll take time.
OK.
That's my answer. There we go.
I think the young lad will be a fine actor and we'll
I'm sure he
that.
is. He is, but, you know, you just think ginger one from Harry Potter. Fabio Capello will leave it very late to choose his goalkeeper.
Now, Lucy had a bump in her car on the way here today. It wasn't caused by drink driving. We're going to, well, as far as I know, we're not going to talk. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But you hit a pigeon, and I've noticed they're an amazing, like foxes. Do you not think there are just too many pigeons about at the moment? They're absolutely everywhere. Well, there's one less this morning because you've hit one.
And my cat murdered one last week.
Well, it survived.
What survived?
Chris, our producer, managed to wedge it out of my grate in the front of the car, and it flew off very happily.
Oh.
Somehow. I mean,
well, Dynamo was very
worst...
happy, but it was...
It's a happy ending. It's probably just a bit bruised.
Exactly. That's exactly what he said. Maybe a bit of a dodgy flyer this morning.
Is this sort of pigeon breeding time of the year or something?
I think they must all be flying the nest, and they're always fat when they leave the nest, aren't they? You never see a baby pigeon,
and
do you?
This wasn't a manky grey pigeon. This was sort of caramel colours, and I was a bit worried it's somebody's prized racing
And they
pigeon.
nest now. And gosh, I heard of someone who cut a tree down and there was a little nest in it.
I heard about someone cutting a tree down.
Terrible situation.
Nest of baby
I'd
pigeons
just
fell
like
out.
to say I rescued the nest of pigeons. It's fine. They're fine. The baby pigeons were saved.
What are people saying about this drink driving limit and it being harder? Why don't they just have zero tolerance?
Well, people saying that, but actually a lot of people saying, you know, it's not going to make any difference. Elaine King reckons people will always drink and drive no matter what the limit is. Stephen Schwartz says, though, if you're caught drinking, your car should be taken away and crushed.
Oh, well, there you go. And the weather picture for today, Lucy?
It's looking promising. Plenty of lovely sunshine, staying dry.
We'll take a break there. We've got all the top stories of the morning, including the latest on BP. We'll bring you the front pages of the newspapers after Charlotte now with a rundown of what else is happening.
Thanks very much, Eamon. An official government report is calling for tough new restrictions on the legal alcohol limit. A report for the Transport Secretary will suggest cutting the existing legal level to bring it in line with the News HD.
Thanks, Charlotte. You're doing live desk from 9 o'clock
I am indeed.
this morning.
I'll be breaking the news.
Yes, breaking the news, not adding to the unemployment figures.
Hopefully not.
But maybe.
Florida.
Let's get a rundown of what else is happening news-wise, and then we're going to Birmingham today, where the replacement hospital for the city's Selly Oak, which treat injured military personnel from Afghanistan, is being opened, and that's the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. They're live after this from Charlotte.
Thanks, Eamon. An official government report is calling for tough new restrictions on the legal alcohol limit. A report for the Transport Secretary will suggest cutting the existing...
OK, well, some of the country's most seriously injured military personnel will be transferred to a brand new